No, you're completely missing the point.
I'm really not.
You are absolutely mental if you're reading this analysis of, 1913 to 1950 cinema and walking away thinking it's just a collection of old gags.
Well, it largely is.
It is not. You have to understand, and you listening to this, you have to understand what a bloody shambles this entire argument is right now.
Oh, here we go.
We are talking about Sherlock Jr., right? 1924.
Buster Keaton.
Yes, the acrobat.
He's not just an acrobat. This is properly genius.
Cinema, the magic vehicle, a comprehensive guide. Journey 1, 1913 to 1950.
It's absolutely brilliant. He didn't just make a funny film. He literally dismantled the physical, psychological, and mechanical reality of what cinema was.
Are you quite finished?
And he put it back together while his contemporaries were still trying to figure out how to keep a camera in focus.
Right, because honestly, you're shouting over the actual historical record here.
I am the historical record. It's a bit overhyped. Hear me out. I'm looking at the exact same era, the exact same historical breakdown of early cinema, and frankly, I find this blind reverence for Keaton's 1924 outing a bit, well, dodgy in places.
Dodgy.
Yes, dodgy. You're taking a man who was, at his core, an acrobat, and you are elevating a circus act, the high art.
A circus act? Are you joking?
Let me finish. You're so gobsmacked by a few flashy editing tricks that you're entirely ignoring the fact that the narrative is completely disjointed.
It's not disjointed.
Look at the foundation of what makes a film endure. It's a sequence of stunts stitched together by a flimsy, frankly ridiculous plot.
That is just not true.
It's rather dull when you strip away the acrobatics. You're acting like he invented the wheel when really he just spun it a bit faster to distract you from the fact that there's no emotional core to the story.
That's rubbish, mate. Total rubbish.
It's the truth.
Look, we need to drag... The person listening to this right now probably wondering why we're already at each other's throats. We need to drag you into this debate.
By all means, let's drag them in.
Because what we have here is the ultimate masterclass in reality manipulation. It's 1924.
Yes, we know the year.
There's no CGI, there's no digital trickery. Half the cinemas showing this thing are running on dodgy electricity and hand crank projectors, right?
Yeah.
And Buster Keaton is doing things on celluloid that modern directors would need, like an entire server farm and a team of software engineers to pull off.
Which doesn't make it a good story.
We are talking about a man who realized that the camera wasn't just a recording device. It was a machine that could literally rewrite the laws of physics and time.
Right, and here we go with the technological fetishism.
It's not fetishism, it's fact.
Look, if you want to understand the actual cinema of the 1920s, you have to look at the contrast of what comedy was actually trying to achieve in that post-war era.
Which was what, falling over?
No, the world was industrializing, right? Cities were growing, machines were getting bigger, people felt small.
Right.
So what did the gravity-defying screen comedians of that era do? They literally devoured space.
Devoured space.
Right. Think about that phrase from the text, to devour space. They ran, they fell, they physically conquered the massive, overwhelming industrial environment around them.
Yeah, but Keaton did that too.
They chased each other through city streets, over rooftops, under trains. They made the terrifying modern world manageable through physical comedy. And the gold standard for that, the absolute peak of creating an emotional connection within that physical space, was Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, here we go. The Chaplin purist has entered the chat.
It's not about being a purist, mate. It's about recognizing cinematic mastery over gimmickry.
Gimmickry, wow.
Think about Chaplin. His camera was completely passive. He was an impassive observer. It just sat there, bolted down, and watched the events unfold.
Exactly. It was boring.
It didn't intervene. It didn't make constant, arrogant references to the fact that you were watching a movie. Chaplin gave you a window into a soul.
Oh, please.
He allowed the human emotion, the tragedy, the reality of the scene to play out in real time, in real space. Keaton, on the other hand, just gave you a mirror reflecting his own cleverness.
Wait, hold on a second. A gimmick. You can't be serious.
I am entirely serious.
Chaplin just set up a camera, stood in front of it, and did a dance. He treated the CinemaScreen exactly like a theater stage.
Because that's where the emotion lives.
You sit in the stalls, you watch the little man with the cane do his routine. Brilliant, sure, but it's just recorded theater. Keaton actually broke the medium.
Broke it or just abused it.
Keaton is the exception to the entire era because he deftly indulges in space-time jugglery. Time. space.
Yes, lots of big words.
In 1923, with the 3 ages, he's manipulating the flow of history itself. And let's talk about 1921, the Playhouse.
Oh, the ultimate gimmick.
The man appears in more than 20 male and female parts in a single one-reeler. 20 parts.
Which is exactly my point about parlor tricks.
No, listen to the mechanics of this.
Yeah.
You, listening, try to wrap your head around how mental this is.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It's 1921. There are no optical printers, there are no green screens. To play 20 different people on screen at the exact same time, Keaton had his cameraman tape off fractions of the camera lens.
Yes, technically proficient.
Just a tiny sliver of the lens is exposed. Keaton performs one character. Then they have to manually, blindly rewind the film strip inside the camera to the exact starting frame.
Right.
They tape off a different sliver of the lens, expose a new fraction of the film, and Keaton plays the second character. And they do this 9 times for one shot.
I'm well aware of how multiple exposures work.
If he overlaps his physical position by a single inch, or if the cameraman turns the hand crank at like 17 frames per second instead of 16, the entire shot is ruined.
A mathematical marvel, truly.
He had to perform blind, syncing his movements to a metronome playing off camera. He played the entire orchestra, the audience, the actors. That isn't a gimmick. That's a mathematical logistical symphony.
Hold on a second. You can't be serious. I will never deny the logistical difficulty of masking a lens and hand cranking a camera to a metronome.
Well, thank you.
It is technically astounding, but a gimmick doesn't make you a pioneer of narrative.
It's not a gimmick.
Doing multiple exposures so you can play 20 roles in the Playhouse is the definition of showing off. It's the director shouting, "Look at me, look what I can do with the film negative."
No, it's exploring the limits of the form.
And what happens when a director does that? It completely pulls the audience out of any emotional reality. Devouring space, existing in the tangible physical world like Chaplin did, creates comedy out of the genuine struggle of human existence.
If you say so.
Manipulating time and multiple exposures just alienates the viewer. It's a cold, calculated exercise in mechanics.
No, you're missing the absolute genius of the alienation. You, the listener, picture this. It's the 1920s.
Let's set the scene.
You go to the cinema to escape the grime, the smog, the miserable reality of a post-war world. You expect to see a bloke fall off a ladder.
A classic gag.
Instead, Keaton gives you a world where reality itself is pliable, where one man can be 20 people, where time can bend. He's telling the audience, don't just watch the story, realize you are watching a manufactured dream.
A very messy dream.
He saw cinema as a playground for reality manipulation. The camera's not a window made, it's a paintbrush. He's taking the very mechanism of cinema, the film strip, the lens, the cut, and making it the subject of the joke. That's not arrogant, it's visionary.
It's a visionary distraction from a complete inability to tell a coherent story.
Oh, come off it.
You talk about his mastery of control, his control over the camera, over time, over the negative. But when you look at the actual narrative he constructs, it all falls apart.
It doesn't fall apart.
Let's look at the actual plot of Sherlock Jr. Let's strip away the time jugglery for a moment and look at the real-world setup of the film because it is a bloody shambles.
Oh, here we go. You're going to attack the plot of a surrealist comedy. Brilliant analytical work, that.
I'm going to analyze what's actually there, not what you wish was there. Our protagonist, played by Keaton, is a cinema projectionist.
Right.
He also fancies himself an amateur detective. He has a rival in love, played by Ward Crane.
A great villain.
This rival spitefully plants a pocket watch, which belongs to the fiancé's father, played by Joe Keaton, into our hero's pocket.
Yeah.
Our hero is accused of the theft, and the engagement to the fiancée, played by Catherine Maguire, is completely broken off.
Exactly. A classic framing setup. It's perfect. It establishes the conflict.
It's not perfect, it's pathetic. Do you know why the engagement is broken off? Do you know why he gets caught in this trap so easily?
Because he's framed.
Because the hero, who is, quote, very keen on becoming a detective, conducts his inquiry with too much energy.
He's enthusiastic.
He is an absolute menace to himself. He reads a book on how to be a detective, tries to follow the rules blindly, and fails spectacularly. His real-world detective skills are absolutely rubbish.
That's the joke.
He tries so hard to be the clever, suave hero that he completely ruins his own life. The narrative isn't some grand tragedy of a wronged man. It's a farce of incompetence. He lacks complete control over his own reality.
But wait, that's the whole point, mate. Are you seriously criticizing the film because the protagonist lacks control?
Yes, because you're calling him a master of his universe.
That is the foundational theme connecting everything we're talking about.
I'm criticizing it because you're calling it high art when the hero is an idiot who causes his own downfall through sheer bumbling ineptitude.
It's a comedy.
And here's the most damning part. The absolute irony that you seem to want to ignore. Think about how the real thief is actually unmasked in the end.
The fiancé does it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fiancée, Catherine Maguire's character, is the one who actually uses real detective methods to unmask the real thief.
Yeah, I know.
She goes to the pawn shop, she talks to the pawnbroker, she does the actual tangible work, and solves the crime in reality.
Right.
And where is our so-called genius protagonist while she's doing this? He is literally asleep on the job in the projection booth, having a little fantasy where he magically saves the day.
He's retreating into his mind.
The woman is out there actually fixing the mess he made in the real world. Why on earth do we praise the man's imaginary heroics when the woman actually solved the crime? It makes the whole film feel incredibly hollow.
Hollow. No. You're so close to getting it, and then you just veer right off a cliff.
I haven't veered anywhere. I'm looking at the facts.
You just hit the nail on the head regarding control.
Yeah.
In the real world, Keaton's character has zero control.
None whatsoever.
The fact that he is incompetent in reality, the fact that he conducts the inquiry with too much energy and ruins everything, that is the necessary catalyst for the entire film. It's a critique, mate.
A critique, right.
It's a brilliant, biting critique of the male ego. Think about the psychology here. He wants to be the suave, infallible hero. He wants to be Sherlock Holmes. He projects this image of flawless masculinity. But in reality, men are messy. We overcomplicate things. We mess up. When reality breaks down, when his total lack of control in the physical world becomes too much to bear, what does he do?
He takes a nap.
He retreats. His real-world failure forces him into the only place where he can exercise absolute control. The fantasy of the cinema screen.
So your defense of the film is that it's an intentional portrayal of male inadequacy masked by an elaborate dream sequence.
Yes, absolutely. The cinema is the only place he can be the hero he wishes he was. The physical world is cruel and chaotic, right? But the cinematic world is malleable. And that transition, when he falls asleep in the projection booth, when we see his translucent dream self separate from his sleeping body, walk down the aisle of the theater, and literally step into the movie playing on the screen.
I'll admit, visually striking.
That leap through the screen is one of the most profound moments in cinematic history. He's seeking control in the illusion because he has none in reality.
It's a neat trick. I'll grant you that the visual of the projectionist walking into the movie he's projecting is a clever concept.
Clever. It's revolutionary.
It's an interesting commentary on audience escapism. But what follows is exactly what I'm talking about regarding Keaton's lack of narrative discipline.
Oh, don't say it.
He steps into the screen, and the film devolves into a disjointed montage designed purely to disorient the audience and cover up the lack of a real story.
A disjointed montage. Are you joking? You mean the single greatest sequence of editing in the 1920s?
I wouldn't go that far.
You, listening to this, you have to picture this sequence because it fundamentally changes how we understand film editing.
Oh, please.
The hero steps into the screen to save the girl. But the film keeps cutting. The scenery changes faster than he can react. But his physical position remains perfectly static.
Yes, very showy.
1 second, he's standing on the edge of a precipice, leaning forward, about to fall off. The director makes a hard cut. The next frame, Keaton is in the exact same leaning position, but he finds himself surrounded by lions in a desert.
Which has nothing to do with solving a crime.
He turns to run away, the scene cuts again, and he nearly falls under a speeding train.
Yes, I am well aware of the sequence. He's on a rock at the seashore, he jumps into the water, and because the scene changes mid-jump, he lands headfirst in a snow-covered bank.
It's incredible.
It's erratic, it's exhausting to watch. It completely stops the plot dead in its tracks.
It is spot on. It is a masterpiece of psychological terror.
Terror. Now you're just making things up.
Look at the mechanism of how this was achieved. The photography by Elgin Leslie and Byron Huck in this sequence is completely unmatched.
They were competent technicians, yes.
Competent. Think about the technical, agonizing precision required to pull that off in 1924. They didn't have video assist monitors to match the framing.
I know how they filmed it.
To make that sequence work, they had to use surveying equipment. They had to map the exact distance from the camera lens to Keaton on a soundstage. Then they had to take that camera out into the real world, to a lion enclosure, to a real train track, to the crashing ocean, to a snowy mountain.
An immense waste of resources for a joke.
They had to physically measure the distance again, match the lens height perfectly, and wait for the lighting to match the previous shot. It took months to film a sequence that lasts seconds on screen.
Which proves my point about his priorities.
It is seamless. Even modern CGI struggles to feel that physically grounded.
And again, you are praising the carpentry while ignoring the fact that the house is completely devoid of furniture.
What are you talking about?
Yes, Elgin Leslie and Byron Hawk were skilled technicians. Yes, lining up those shots with surveying equipment took immense logistical effort and patience. But to what end?
To blow the audience's minds.
It's just a flashy editing trick. It's a gag that goes on too long. It doesn't advance the plot of the stolen necklace one bit.
That's rubbish, mate. It advances the psychological plot. Think about it. It's like a modern VR glitch happening in 1924.
A VR glitch.
Right.
Right. Because 1920s audiences in bowler hats were deeply concerned with virtual reality.
No, listen to the mechanics of the metaphor. When you put on a VR headset today, and the digital environment suddenly shifts or drops away, your stomach literally lurches, right?
Supposedly.
Your brain panics. Why? Because your visual input has completely changed. But your vestibular system, your inner ear, hasn't registered any physical movement.
Are we a science podcast now?
You see yourself falling, but your body knows it's standing still. It induces physical vertigo. Keaton figured out how to do that to an audience's brain using nothing but scissors and film tape.
Okay, that's slightly overblown.
He's constantly misinterpreting his reality because the parameters of his reality are being rewritten by a godlike director every 2 seconds. He is entirely at the mercy of the cut.
I will admit that it is a highly effective way of simulating a lack of control. It's visual whiplash.
It simulates a nightmare. Have you never had a dream where you try to run, but suddenly you're underwater and then suddenly you're falling from a building?
We all have those dreams.
Keaton is capturing the exact, chaotic, vulnerable logic of a nightmare. He's showing the audience how vulnerable they are to the director's whims. We think we are safe in our cinema seats. But Keaton is screaming at us. The director controls space. The director controls time. The director can drop you in front of a train in a fraction of a second.
Very dramatic.
He's exposing the manipulative power of cinema. You have to admit the technical brilliance of doing this in camera.
It is technically brilliant, I won't deny it, but I argue that it represents Keaton losing control of his own narrative.
How does he lose control?
He gets so caught up in the "what if I cut to a lion" joke, so enamored with his ability to manipulate the inner ear of the audience that he forgets he's supposed to be telling a story about a stolen pearl necklace.
He doesn't forget.
Because once he's past that montage, once the nightmare stabilizes, what happens next? Does he engage in some brilliant cerebral detective work?
Well,
No, it's just a barrage of stunts.
but what stunts? It is a symphony of bravado.
It's a circus routine. You can call it a symphony all you want, but it reads like an inventory of a prop comics trunk.
It does not.
He's supposedly tracking down the man guilty of the heinous crime of stealing the necklace. And what does he do? He avoids cartoonish death traps.
They're iconic death traps.
A pool ball number 13, of course, because subtlety is entirely dead-loaded with dynamite.
Hilarious.
A dreadful halberd swinging at his head like a pendulum, a piece of paper covered with glue, searching for dollars on a rubbish heap, a fence with revolving doors. It's just exhausting.
You're just listing them like they're items on a grocery list. You're completely stripping the joy out of the physical reality of these gags.
There's no joy in watching a man run in circles for 20 minutes.
The physical fitness required to execute these sequences is unparalleled. You want to talk about devouring space. He does a hair-raising ride sitting on the handlebars of a speeding motorcycle with no driver.
So I saw.
He's literally hurtling through live traffic, inches from actual death, and his face remains completely impassive. He escapes on the chassis of an automobile that ends up floating on a lake.
Yes, motion, motion, motion.
The pacing of it all. Nowhere else did Keaton better demonstrate his skills at conducting the dazzling pace of screen events, magnified by the boldly panning camera.
Oh, the camera pans, how revolutionary.
He was editing this himself, remember? Buster Keaton was the editor. He knew the exact mathematical frame, the exact microsecond to hold a shot to maximize the tension before the laugh.
Hold on. You're just listing stunts now. Speak English. Slow down. Give me the actual cinematic value.
That is cinematic value.
You're describing a man running very fast and not dying. That is the definition of a stuntman, not a filmmaker.
He's both.
You can have the most dazzling pace in the world, but if the stunts don't reveal character, if I don't care about the emotional state of the man on the motorcycle, it's just motion for the sake of motion. It's adrenaline replacing emotion.
You want cinematic value. You want the absolute distillation of Keaton's genius. The perfect marriage of physical stunt work and cinematic illusion.
Go on, amaze me.
I give you the master gag. The flat box gag.
Oh, heaven help us. Here comes the flat box.
It is the greatest gag in cinematic history. You, listening, you have to visualize the sheer physics of this moment. The hero, Sherlock Jr., is trapped.
By his own incompetence, usually.
He's being chased by the villains. He enters their den where the rival is trying to fence the stolen necklace. Keaton needs an escape route, but the door is blocked. So what does he do?
He performs magic.
He takes a flat wooden box, no thicker than a briefcase. He places it in the open window frame. Inside this box is an artfully folded woman's dress and hat.
Convenient.
When the villains attack him, he doesn't just jump out the window. He dives headfirst through the window into the narrow opening of the box and emerges on the street outside, instantly dressed as a woman, walking away completely undetected. It's absolutely brilliant.
Hear me out. It's a cheap parlor trick.
A cheap parlor trick. It's a masterpiece of physical timing and spatial awareness.
It is a magic trick. The historical context here is vital, and you're ignoring it.
I'm not ignoring context.
This gag distills his childhood background, a childhood spent in everyday contact with jugglery and sleight of hand. He grew up in vaudeville.
Which made him great.
He grew up watching magicians, escape artists, and acrobats, and that's exactly what this is. It's a quick change act you'd see in a dusty music hall for a nickel.
So what?
Relying on childhood jugglery makes it a circus act, not high art. You keep trying to elevate this to some profound philosophical statement about reality, but at the end of the day, it's just a bloke jumping through a hoop very quickly.
No, it is near surreal. The analysis of the film rightly calls it a nearly surreal comic idea.
Nearly being the operative word.
It distills the absolute essence of Keaton. His physical fitness, his bravado, his enterprise. He takes a vaudeville trick, sure, but he elevates it by putting it on film, playing with the audience's expectation of continuity and physics.
He's just cutting the film, mate.
In a music hall, you know there's a trapdoor. On film, the frame is absolute. You think he can't possibly change clothes in the half second it takes to pass through a window frame.
Yeah.
And then he does.
Yes, through careful editing.
It breaks the rules of physics within the reality of the film. It's not just a quick change. It's a statement about the elasticity of the cinematic universe. He is entirely in control of space and time.
It is a statement that he knew how to hide a cut, or at least how to rehearse a physical movement until it looked physically impossible.
Which is genius.
I'm not denying the physical skill. The man was an athlete of the highest order, but physical fitness does not equal narrative depth.
Narrative depth.
And the fact that we have to spend this much time debating the mechanics of a man jumping through a box proves my point. The film is a series of isolated incidents, a collection of mechanical puzzles, not a cohesive narrative whole. It lacks philosophy.
Okay, fine. You want narrative depth. You want philosophical cohesion.
I'd settle for a basic arc.
You think this is all just tumbling and running? Let's look at the ending. Let's look at what the great René Clair said about this film.
Ah, yes. The inevitable attempt to intellectualize the clown.
René Clair, one of the greatest French filmmakers of the era, describes Sherlock Jr. as the cinematic equivalent of Pirandello's play, 6 characters in search of an author.
I am familiar with Pirandello, yes.
Then you know what that means.
A stage play where the theater examines its own sources, where the illusion breaks down. Characters literally interrupt a rehearsal demanding their story be told. It's a brilliant metafictional exploration of reality versus illusion. The creations challenge the creator.
Exactly. And that is exactly what Keaton is doing here. It's cinema within cinema.
It's a dream sequence.
He is doing Pirandello, but with light and shadow. We have cinema as a dream. More than half the film is told using subjective narrative, meaning we are literally trapped inside his sleeping mind, seeing the world completely distorted by his own insecurities and desires.
Fine, standard trope.
But then, we wake up. We have the finale. And this is where Keaton explores cinema, not just as a dream, but as a model for behavior.
I will admit, this is the one part of the analysis, the one part of the film that I find genuinely intriguing.
Really? You're giving me an inch.
The philosophical angle here does have some weight, even if I still think you're projecting a bit too much intent onto a slapstick comedy.
I'm not projecting anything. It's right there on the screen, screaming at you. Look at what happens. The protagonist wakes up. He's back in the cramped, hot projection room.
Back to his miserable reality.
His real-life fiancée, the one who actually solved the crime in the real world, as you so astutely pointed out, comes into the room to apologize. She realizes he was falsely accused.
And she does all the emotional heavy lifting.
She is offering him real, genuine, unscripted affection. And what does our hero do?
He freezes. He has absolutely no idea how to interact with a real human woman in a moment of genuine emotional intimacy. His bravado from the dream is entirely gone.
Yes, because he's lived his whole life in the booth. He only knows how to interact with the world through the safety of fiction.
A sad existence.
So, completely unsure of how to react to a real woman apologizing to him, he turns and looks out the little window of the projection booth at the movie playing on the screen.
Right.
He literally watches the fictional hero on the screen to know what to do. The screen hero steps forward and kisses the heroine's hand. Keaton looks back at his fiancée, grabs her hand, and awkwardly kisses it.
Mimicry.
He looks back at the screen. The screen hero gives the heroine a beautiful engagement ring. Keaton fumbles around in his pockets, pulls out a ring, and gives it to his fiancée.
I'm filling the script.
He looks back at the screen one more time. The hero dramatically kisses the heroine on the mouth. Keaton confidently leans in and kisses his fiancée on the mouth.
It is a very poignant demonstration of how we use media to learn how to behave. It's incredibly relevant even today. Think about it. How many people learn how to date, how to flirt, how to express love by watching romantic comedies? We look to fiction to give us the script for reality when we are lost.
Exactly.
It's a fascinating commentary on the power of the moving image over the human psyche. I'll grant you that. To recognize that in 1924, to understand that cinema wasn't just entertainment, but a behavioral programming tool, shows an awareness of the medium's influence that was incredibly ahead of its time.
Right. So you admit it's brilliant. You admit he is deconstructing the psychological impact of the medium.
But then things become complicated.
Why complicated?
Because he can't help himself. He has to go for the gag.
Yes, they do become complicated, but not because of a gag. He looks back at the screen one last time. He's expecting the classic Hollywood ending.
The fade to a kiss.
He's expecting to see the hero and heroine walking off into the sunset, the happily ever after. He wants the screen to tell him that his life is now perfectly resolved.
But it doesn't.
But instead, the scene on the screen has jumped forward in time. The romantic hero is now seen nursing a lapful of screaming babies, and Keaton just stands there, looking at the screen, utterly confused, scratching his head. The film fades to black.
And that's exactly where you lose me again. You see profound philosophy. I see a cheap punchline.
It's not cheap.
He sets up this genuinely fascinating premise about cinema as a behavioral model, a Pirandello-esque exploration of art imitating life, and then he ends it with a tired vaudeville gag about the burdens of fatherhood.
You're completely misreading it.
You're elevating a clown to a philosopher, and it's a bit much. It's a joke about how he doesn't know where babies come from, or he's terrified of domestic life. It undercuts the entire intellectual weight of the Pirandello comparison. It's a cheap laugh to end the picture.
No, you're looking at it completely backwards. You are fundamentally misunderstanding the tragedy of that final shot.
Tragedy. It's a man holding babies.
That final shot is terrifying. It is a profound existential realization that movies lie to you. Think about it.
Thinking about it.
The cinema can teach you how to be suave. It can teach you how to kiss a girl. It can give you the exact script for the romance, the lighting, the angles.
Sure.
But it does absolutely nothing to prepare you for the messy, complicated, lifelong, unscripted reality of what comes after the kiss. The babies don't represent a joke about fatherhood, mate.
Then what do they represent?
They represent the unscripted chaos of real life. The movie screen has jumped ahead, skipping the hard part. Keaton is staring at that screen, realizing that his model for behavior has just abandoned him.
That is quite the leap.
He is entirely on his own now in the real world, a world where he has zero control. He is the most intelligent director of pure screen comedy because he uses comedy to expose the terrifying limits of the very medium he works in. None of his colleagues knew better what cinema is all about. Not Chaplin, not anyone.
That is highly debatable. Knowing what cinema is about, understanding the manipulative power of the edit, does not magically excuse a disjointed narrative and a reliance on childhood vaudeville trickery.
It's the whole package.
Yes. The ending poses an interesting, somewhat haunting question about the limits of cinematic escapism. I will concede that the final image is memorable.
Thank you.
But it doesn't magically weave the preceding 40 minutes of chaotic stunts, exploding pool balls, and flatbox gags into a cohesive masterpiece.
Of course it does.
It's an uneven, hyperactive fever dream that ignores real narrative in favor of technical showing off. It's a fascinating historical artifact, a stepping stone in the evolution of editing, but a masterclass. No. Chaplin gave us the human condition. Keaton gave us a beautifully engineered puzzle box with nothing inside.
It is untouchable. It is the foundation of every meta-narrative film, every reality-bending story you have ever loved. You strip away Keaton's space-time jugglery, you strip away the subjective narrative of the cinema within cinema, and you have nothing but static cameras recording stage plays for the rest of the century. He was 50 years ahead of his time.
50 years? Now you're just throwing numbers?
And the fact that you can look at the absolute genius of the flatbox gag, the visceral psychological terror of the VR nightmare montage, the profound philosophical dread of that final baby scene, and still sit there and call it a cheap parlor trick is just, it's completely gobsmacking. You're completely missing the magic vehicle. You are entirely missing the point of what cinema can actually do.
I'm not missing anything. I just refuse to be blinded by the glare of an explosion when I'm looking for a story. But since you are so keen on the philosophical depth of that ending, let's turn this outward.
What do you mean?
Let's make this real for a second. Think about that final moment in the projection booth. Think about how you listening to us argue. Think about how you react when something goes wrong in your own life.
Okay.
When you're faced with a genuine crisis, a difficult apology, a moment of profound vulnerability, are you genuinely reacting from your own emotional core? Or are you just looking at the nearest screen, frantically copying what some fictional character did and praying it works out?
That's exactly what I've been saying all along.